Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm gonna talk about the GMSR a little bit, kind of my thoughts on the race, how it went, and also a little bit about the whole season in general, and what my plans are for next year and how I feel about how I executed this year. So let's jump into it. So first, a little bit about GMSR. It's a Green Mountain stage race. It's one of the biggest stage races in the U.S. As far as I know. It was actually one of the races that I was eyeing on for about 2 years. In 2019, a couple of my friends and I watched some YouTube videos of it and kind of figured that let's just train and try and do it in 2020, which never happened, so we kind of pushed that to 2021. So technically I've been training for this race for 2 years. I don't know if I wouldn't say I was aiming for that race specifically, trying to really peak at it, but it was in the back of my mind. Throughout the whole training I was always focused on eventually going there and trying to do well. Obviously as it is with me, I don't actually look at the course profile ever. I don't really care until I actually get there, and then I realize it's too much climbing or it's super steep for me. Since I'm still at 190 pounds, it was a pretty tough one to finish, but I'm pretty happy I did it. It was tough, and we'll get into I guess some of the Strava segments and times and stuff like that. I'll show you the power I did for all the stages, and I'll talk about what I think went wrong, what could have went better, what I should have done better probably, and so on. So we can jump to Strava now, and really quickly, the stage one was a TT that did. When we came there on Thursday, so the race was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So when we came there on Thursday, we actually did a little recon, which is where I actually found out that the first part of this race, I knew it was gonna be a hilly TT, but the first part of that TT is absolutely insane. It's just pretty much straight up until 5 or 6 minutes in, and then you have another 6 minutes of just false flat downhill, which is what I did really well. But that first part was pretty tough. So we'll get into this. So let's open the segment. So my actual time on the day was 15:24. So this year there was a headwind going throughout the whole TT. Which wasn't ideal, obviously, because you already have a lot of climbing, and then even still then you have the headwind coming into you and slowing you down, which made it for a pretty tough race. But so as you can see, the course profile here, you start kind of on the flat, and then right away you go straight climbing, you're going up, and I don't know the actual maximum. Looks like you're hitting about 15% incline at some of the points, and then right about here, which is I think about 6 minutes in, is where you hit a nice false flat downhill, and you can go pretty fast. As you can see, I was averaging over 50 kilometers an hour, hitting 60 and actually hitting 70 kilometers an hour by the end. So that was really nice. Now, if you look at the actual power that I did for the TT, so the average power I think was 400 watts on the dot. Now, that in itself I think is okay. I think for a 12-minute effort I should have been a little bit higher than that, but considering that first part is climbing and then the second part is downhill, my best bike split told me to go much harder on the uphill and then much easier on the downhill, which I tried to execute. But if you can see, I'm actually relatively flat. I have some sections going over 500 watts at the start, and then I'm pretty much holding 380 to 400 for this first part. There is a little jump here to about 500 watts, and mind you, this uphill was kind of like up, and then maybe a few seconds of just like 2%, then 8%, and 13%, and then 1%. So it's kind of hard to keep that power, but I was trying to follow the best bike split suggestions. But I think it was a little bit too flat. I think right here I should have spiked a lot more. And I'm saying this in hindsight because when I looked at the times of the people that were faster than me, I lost about a minute or a minute and a half in the first 5 minutes of this TT. So I think people were attacking that climb a lot faster and a lot better than I did. And then on the flat, everybody was going so fast that, I was still pushing pretty good watts. I was still about 400, 360. There's drops, right? But anyway, between 350 and 400 on the flats. And I was barely catching people. I know the guy that passed me on a hill, I caught up to him, and I passed him, but then he passed me back up because there is a big riser at the end. So I think for the future, if I was to do this, I think I need to attack the first part a lot harder and then kind of just chill and use my weight to my advantage, just kind of go down and try and roll that false flat a little bit easier, but definitely go deeper in the first part. I finished 12th on the stage 1. I was 56 seconds down to the winner. The winner was actually a teammate of mine, Austin. It was really, really fast. So congrats to Austin. And he was in yellow after that day, which was pretty awesome to see. Super fast guy, so I was happy that he was actually on my team. So that's good. And then after that stage, we kind of had a really short team meeting. I think that's another thing that probably could have went better. I think as a team, which I was a part of, we didn't really worked as a team, if that makes sense. Like nobody was deciding on like, okay, this is what we're doing, this is what we're not gonna do. We didn't have a set plan. I kind of told them I'm gonna try and help them out the next stage the best as I can, right? So I was gonna work for my teammate. We also had another teammate who was a sprinter, so he wasn't gonna do anything other than sprint, right? So it was kind of on me to try and I guess keep him in a yellow. Stage 2 was a circuit race, which was 674 miles circuit race, so 2 laps of 37 miles. It was relatively flat, except there were by the end, so like last, I guess, 2 miles of it, we had a steep climb and then a good descent into the finish. So it wasn't like super flat, but relative to what's coming in stage 3, it was pretty flat. So we can go to Strava, and this is the course of the stage 2, and you can see the profile. As I was saying, there is a little bit of like a 2% false flat uphill for the first, like, I would say, what is this, like 18 miles, and then goes kind of down and then up to this climb, which isn't that bad really. After the first lap, I was right at the end of the front group, and then I caught up to the front of the first group on a downhill, and then by the we'll talk about it. So the race started off pretty well. I knew that I didn't want my teammate to do any work, so it was on me to really shut down any dangerous moves, which I think I did pretty good. The lap 1, I kept everybody in check, so whenever there was an attack that was pretty dangerous, I was always stitching those things back up, which I was pretty happy about how I was dealing with it. I think the mistake that I did is I also was trying to sprint, so I was trying to steal some sprint points for my other teammate, because he was in a first sprint. He actually won the first sprint. It was 5 places deep, and I got 5th, and I hit about, I think, 1400 watts for that one. So I went pretty deep on those sprints to try and help him out as well. And what happened is, after the first sprint, I believe somebody went ahead. I was too spent to kind of bridge that back, I was kind of hoping somebody else would get it, because there was a couple of teams there, and this guy had a no team that went out. And then I believe after the first climb, some people also broke away and bridged up to the guy, and there was a break ahead. And after the first climb, I was pretty far back. Well, not back, but I was at the back of the field, so it was pretty hard for me to react to anything going up to the front. I was hoping that other people would kind of stitch that, or my teammate, that's a pretty good climber, would recognize a dangerous move. But I guess that didn't happen. So I think after that first climb, a couple of people bridged up to the guy in the front and created a break. So now, starting the second lap, we didn't actually know at the time that there was a break ahead, because I thought that on the hill that we caught the guy instead of that somebody else went. So we're all trying to talk with each other, and there's a lot of confusion because there's no information. Nobody's telling us what's going on. So about I'd say mile 40 into the race, the guy on a motorbike comes over to us and tells us, "Oh, there is a break 2.5 minutes ahead of you guys." So now, this created a big commotion in the field. Everybody now started organizing. We started to rotate to get a lot faster to try and catch up to the break. And this went on for about 5 to 7 miles before my legs started feeling really, really weird. It was kind of as soon as I pushed over my threshold, I would start kind of cramping a little bit. So I was trying to keep it, sweet spot level, a little bit tempo. But the problem with that is I couldn't really help too much at the front with rotation. And then all of a sudden there was a point about, I'd say 50 miles into the race, where there was a sharp right turn, and there was a big acceleration coming out of that turn, and my legs just seized up, and my right leg locked up, so my quad and my hamstring both cramped at the same time. So I had to stop, and I didn't really know which part to stretch. Which part do I do first, hamstring or my quad. So it was pretty painful. I stretched it out, I got moving again, and then a couple of miles after that, my left leg locked up, so I had to stop again. Then I had to stretch that out. So it was a pretty miserable finish to the second day, where the first lap I felt really good. I kept it in check. The speed was relatively slow, but that's because pretty much nobody that I thought was able to break away from the group, because I was trying to neutralize it all. But then the second lap was much quicker because we were trying to work together, which unfortunately in the end I wasn't able to really help out with that. And that meant that the break also obviously got all the sprint points and all the other KOM points. So that was pretty much out of the question after that day, or out of the contention for our other teammate. But by the end of the second lap, fortunately, I found out that the peloton actually caught up to the break, which meant that my teammate Austin was actually still in yellow after the second day, which was great news. So we came from potentially losing the yellow jersey to now still keeping it, and still having a chance of winning the whole race. And then obviously as I'm coming home after the race, I'm really worried about stage 3. I don't know if I can finish it, or if I don't know what's gonna happen, because I typically don't ever cramp. I never experienced cramping on the bike. I sometimes cramp after the race when I'm driving home in a car. So let's say I'm driving up to New York, 90 minutes. I race there really hard, then I'm back in a car for 90 minutes and I'm cramped right in a seat. Yeah, my legs will sometimes cramp and I need to stop and stretch and stuff like that. But I never actually experienced it on the bike. And I don't know, there's not really good science or whatever, proof or whatever you want to call it, a reason of why cramps happen, or we just don't know it yet. And there's a lot of speculations that it's about electrolytes or sweating or whatnot. The thing is that it was very cold relative to Philly up in Vermont. It wasn't really cold, but it was 60-70 degrees, while at the time in Philly was 90 to 100. So when I would ride in Philly, I would sweat a lot more than I would sweat up there. So even though the stage race was 70 miles, I don't think, or I didn't feel like I really was sweating as much. My jersey wasn't as wet as I went out for an hour ride right now. I could really be drenched. So I don't think it was really the sweat. What got to me was consistent accelerations and then actually sprinting. So I think going into that neuromuscular zone that early in a race, and then also trying to, go and follow every move and bridge stuff back, and kind of being too far above those like zones that I typically do, because I typically am very steady state quote unquote rider. I would go out and do 4 by 10 minutes at 400, right? That's what I do, and I don't really deviate from that power at all. I'm very good at consistently holding something versus going up and down, which is a really bad thing if you want to race crits. And this is one thing that really hurts me in the crits, and something I might need to change for next year if I do want to do well in crits. But I think that's what kind of ended up costing me a good finish, because the way I felt on the first lap, even though I was doing a lot of work, I felt really strong, and I felt like I could have, like, this was the stage that I would do well in. I was hoping for a good TT. Didn't really happen. It was decent, but this was the stage where I think I could have won if I didn't cramp. But that's a part of training, and building that fatigue resistance is also very important, and that's something I did not do well. So maybe for next year or in the future, it's something I work on. But so now stage 2 is over. We're coming home. My legs are shot. They're completely trashed. I don't know if I can even do stage 3. I was talking to the guy that also got cramped and dropped back with me, and he actually did not race stage 3. He just withdrew from the race. I didn't want to do that. I came here. I was eyeing this race for 2 years. It's not going well. Obviously, it's not going great for me, but I still want to finish, right? Because it was something I wanted to do for a long time. It wasn't like, I just entered a week before and I don't give a crap. It meant a lot. So it was a bunch of my friends were there too with me. So I figured, just let's finish. Let's try and race stage 3, try and do as well as we can. Oh, and I didn't really go over the Strava stuff for stage 2. I mean, there isn't really much to watch there, but here is our stage 3. So morning of stage 3, I woke up, I ate, my legs were, I don't know if you ever felt like legs being completely empty. So like I'm walking down the stairs and my legs just are like, it feels like I just came back from a ride. That's kind of how my legs felt on a stage 3. I knew that, if I was to do similar thing that I did yesterday in a stage 2, meaning if I was to sprint, because there was a sprint point before a climb, and if I was to even go above my threshold, other than climbing, I would probably cramp. So my goal for this race was to just chill in the field and try to finish, or for this stage. Real quick stage, how it played out. There was a break that went out again. I think they went out pretty early after the first climb. So we had a Middlebury gap, and then we had the App gap. So these are the two guys right here. So this is the Middlebury gap, and then this right here is the Baby gap, and then this is the App gap. So these 3 kind of like bigger climbs. So I believe right after this Middlebury gap is when the break went, and I think they stayed in front. They had about 2 minutes all the way until after Baby gap, and that's when they were caught, and I believe that's when somebody else attacked, and then those people that attacked were the people that won. So the break was away, but the break didn't win, and break went relatively early, I think. So for me personally, it went a lot better than I expected. So I expected to cramp and to have to stop, pretty much. This is what this was in my head the whole time. I'm gonna cramp, I'm gonna have to stop. So we're riding, and we get to right about, I don't know, this is about 40K in. There was a feed station. So I made sure that I drank my water, I drank my Gatorade, and then in the feed station, I got I got new bottles for that, or a new bottle of Gatorade. And I think in hindsight, this is what really made a difference on the day. So going over the Middlebury Gap, I wasn't expecting to stay with a front group, and going up the climb, I fell back pretty early. The front group of let's say 20 riders went ahead, and then so the way I did my feed station was that or aid station, however you call it, I was all the way on the left side, and my friend was on the right side where you would pick up the bottles, and I didn't realize we were coming up to the station, which I should. So I had to brake, drop back to the end of the pack, go right, pick up the bottle, accelerate to the group. The problem then is I'm last in the whole peloton. I'm last, and then you have a separation where the top 20 or 30 guys went up, and there's a gap between them and then a group of 15 where I was. But then I go around that whole group, and I'm trying to catch up to the front group, and I realized that, okay, this is probably a terrible idea. First of all, I'm pushing well over my FTP. Second, even if I catch up to them, great, but there's still a lot of climb to go and I might cram. So I'm just kind of in this no man's land in between the two groups, and I see that two guys fell back from the top group kind of to me, and then there was two guys behind me that kind of were catching up to me. So as soon as we went over the hill, we could still see the front group, but they already started their down, going down right here. So they're kind of gone. So there's group of 5 of us, let's say about 30 seconds behind the front group, going super fast this downhill. I don't even know if there is a segment for this, but I think I averaged right here. This is a 20-minute segment, 22, 23, almost 30-minute segment where I was averaging over pretty much 60 kilometers an hour, which is 40 miles an hour, for about over 20 minutes. So we were bombing those downhills. And there was a guy actually in our group of 5 that kept attacking our group, which was really confusing to me. It's if you're going to try and catch up to the front group, we should probably be working together, but no, this guy was just not having it. He would attack, going 40 miles an hour, he would attack, we would catch up to him, then he would attack again. At one point he got a really good gap on us, but going that fast on your own, you're not gonna stay out. You're gonna stay ahead of the group of 5 that's working pretty well together. So but the long story short, right here at the end, right when it starts to go flat, we see the front group, and at that point they have 7 seconds, 10 seconds ahead of us. We see the front group, and we catch up to there was a car following the front group, and we get on that car right behind him, and he realizes that we're back, so he accelerates, which gives us a little bit more draft, moves out, and literally brings us back into the group. So the group of 5, I think maybe 7 by the end, maybe some guys caught us, got absorbed back into the front group. So now I'm back in a front group over the first climb. I did not expect to be there. I'm really, really happy to actually be in a front group, because now for next, almost 30K, I'm just chilling in a group. I also went to talk to my teammate who was in a yellow jersey, and he told me what was happening. There was a break of 2 minutes, so he was asking me if I can help. I honestly couldn't. My legs were trash, but I tried. I pulled him to the front. I know at one point, so there was the guys that were blocking on the front. Their teammate was in a break, so they didn't want to do any work. So I was trying to organize other people in the front. Nobody wanted to do any work. They all kind of figured that we would catch them on a hill, which in hindsight and in a moment I knew that would happen. But for some reason my teammate was very, very impatient, and this was something that I noticed day 2 and day 3. I think he's also inexperienced in bike racing as much as I am, but he's very impatient when it comes to racing. He wanted us to bring the brake back day 1 right away, bring the brake back day 3 right away. So it's yes, you can do that, but you can also look at the course and be all right, well, we have a big group, And the day 3, it's pretty much on your own, TT up the hill. You won the TT by a couple of minutes over other people. You will probably catch the break, because no one's gonna be drafting going up a 20% hill. But I tried. I couldn't do it. I actually attacked the whole group at one point because nobody wanted to work. I figured if I go ahead, so I was solo for a bit. I was hoping that they would organize and try and bring me back, which would increase the group speed a little bit, which happened, but it just wasn't enough. So I end up just kind of dropping back to the field, and at this point I can feel my legs cramping a little bit. So I'm just thinking, okay, let's just go easy, don't do any work, try and relax, try and draft in a field. And then we get to the baby gap. So baby gap is something, it's like a smaller, easier hill, which I honestly didn't even know it was there. I knew about the Middlebury gap and the App gap. The baby gap, I never really thought about as being anything hard, but man, that crap was actually pretty hard. That's where I got dropped. So I went through about, I think halfway through baby gap, I made it with the front group. And then at some point I was just like, if I keep going with them, I'm not gonna finish this race. So I just dropped back into my own pace and just kind of, at that point, I'm on my own. There was a couple of people that dropped with me. There's a couple of people behind me. But from baby gap all the way up to the top, I was basically on my own. And that was it for stage 3 for me. So if you never raced GMSR, if you never raced this particular course or never went up the App gap, the final mile of that climb is brutal. It's pretty much, I think it averages 15 to 17%. At the steepest part, it's about 20% right at the top. So it's like, for me, I was holding 400 watts just to stay on my bike. And then if I was gonna go forward, I had to do more than that. So it was pretty crazy to experience something like that. And it was really humbling and really cool to actually, go up that climb. It was the biggest climb that I've ever done in my life, especially that year. I think that stage alone had more climbing than I did in a whole year until then. So that's pretty cool. And another thing I'm pretty happy about is in my weight class. If you look at Strava segments, I got a bunch of top 10 overall. So I'm actually really pleased with that. It's good to know that I am slow compared to these lightweight guys, but compared to my people, I'm doing okay. So here you can see this segment is the last part of this App gap. So it's 2 minutes, average grade 14%. And if you look at I'll just do by weight. So I am 85 to 94. I got 5th of all time, which I'm really happy with. That is all. When I saw that, I was super stoked. That made my whole race right there. In the end, on stage 3, I finished 7 minutes, I believe. Let's say 7 minutes behind the winner, and I think about 5 to 6 minutes behind my teammate, which I was pretty happy with. Considering my weight and everything and cramping, I was really happy with that. I actually also had a sprint finish with this other guy that I was finishing with. We're sprinting at 5 miles an hour going up the 20% hill, but it was cool. It was very, very cool experience. So pretty happy with stage 3. And then stage 4 was the crit. Now, looking at the weather the day before, it was supposed to rain. And looking at and I watched YouTube videos of the crit, and I asked some people that raced the crit before, and they all said, and everything was going towards, this course in wet is very, very sketchy. Which, I raced some sketchy courses, and I raced in the rain this year, so I figured, it's I did it before, it's fine. So the Monday comes, the weather is very, very nice. It is not raining, and in my head I'm like, sweet, we escaped the rain. or we avoided the rain, whatever. We got lucky, it's not gonna rain. And so we're watching the race before, and I'm warming up, I'm getting to the start, and I'm literally sitting on the start line. As I'm sitting on the start line, it starts pouring. It starts raining right when Cat 3s are about to start. And I'm like, sure, fine, no problem, right, whatever. First lap, and we pre-rode, this course before the race. And I kid you not, this course is a little bit of, it's a little bit of road and asphalt around manhole covers. There's so many manhole covers on that course. It's just I don't understand why you need so many manhole covers in one freaking narrow straight, but there is so many of them on every freaking, and the worst thing is they're almost at every turn, or right before or right after the turn. There's just way too many of them. So in my head, I'm like, I need to avoid all of these, even when it's dry. And then, when I realized that it was started raining, I'm like, man, like now I really have to avoid these. And then one stretch of the crit is actually cobbles. It's not like an asphalt. So I'm like, and it's starting to rain. I'm like, I'm not sure how these bricks or whatever are gonna behave, or how my bike's gonna behave going over those. So it's like all these things in my head. It's like, I don't know what's going on. So I talked to my teammate that's still in, he lost yellow. So my teammate lost yellow stage 3, but he wasn't that far. I was like 2 minutes behind the leader at that point. So he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go really hard from the start. I'm like, sure, great, I'm gonna try and do that. And then we start lap 1, and first corner, some guy almost takes out my wheel, so I had to brake. But then I go into the corner, it's fine, I'm going. Second corner, wheel slips out. I barely catch. I sprint, then I accelerate really fast, I sprint to the third corner, wheel skids out again. Same thing, fourth corner, I do well. And then fifth or sixth corner, you're going downhill to the really fast left turn. We're going, and I'm at this point, I'm like 10th wheel, I guess, I don't know. It's like I can see the front, right? And the guy in front of me, or like couple of places in front of me, somebody just brakes really hard, and then you have a group of like 5 people that took that corner really well, and then a big group behind that got caught behind this guy braking going into the downhill left corner. So we all brake, we turn, and then we all have to sprint uphill. And meanwhile, you have the group of like, I don't know, 5 to 10 people maybe that took that corner really well and took all the momentum uphill. So I'm here doing like over 1,000 watts, trying to catch up to them, get to the first corner again, and the wheel skids out. And at that point, I lost all the confidence I had in my bike, and I did 2 more laps and I just stopped. I took myself out of the race. And at that point, it was pouring really, really bad. Like you actually couldn't see in front of you anymore. I think a lot of people got pulled, a lot of people stopped. My teammate was still in contention. He was in a main peloton that consisted of, I think, 5 people, and then there was a break of 3 ahead, and the organizers actually pulled everybody but the group of 3 that were ahead, because it was that bad. And then by the end, the group of 3, I think there was a big reshuffle in the whole GC field because of the crit, because of the rain. A lot of people, the top 3, actually, I think the guy got 2nd and 4th out of top 3 that actually finished the crit. And they were 4 minutes down on GC. So it was a big reshuffle in the field at the crit. But I figured, I'm not in a GC contention. I can't really do anything at this point, and I don't feel safe. And you guys know how I am with the crits and crashing from last year. One of my big goals, and we'll talk about this later, this year was to not crash in the crit. I did crash on the training ride, but no crashes in a race. And I managed to do that, and that's goal checked. I've stayed up, knock on wood, this year in races, and that was very, very important for me. So I wasn't gonna risk a stupid accident, maybe even injuring myself and destroying my bike for something that is, at that time, at that point, really kind of irrelevant. Plus, it wasn't really, I didn't feel like I could really race the crit the way you would race the crit, because of just didn't have the confidence to corner. If you have to completely stop and then accelerate, completely stop, accelerate, and you can't actually bring the momentum through corners, to me that's not racing. That's kind of just like surviving at that point. So yeah, not super happy how the crit went, but I'm happy that I actually made a good decision, I think, for myself at that time. But yeah, so that's GMSR. Big takeaways: I need to ride more. I think if I had, so the way I train is I do a lot of interval training. Not a lot, but I follow trainer road plans, which have you do intervals like 3 times a week, and then the other days I just go for an hour and a half of just zone 2 rides. So at most, my time on the saddle is up to 90 minutes. I rarely go over that unless I go on like a group ride with friends or something, which we don't do as often as we should. I did 100-mile rides, I did 100K rides. I can do those rides, but those are mainly steady. I've never done a ride where I kind of go, oh, here's a segment, let's attack this, and now let's go easy, let's go a little bit harder here. And I think I need to join a group ride that kind of does that. It's kind of like a bunch of guys that go on a long ride where they attack each other and then kind of go easy, kind of attack each other. I found a couple in Philly that I'm gonna start doing next year, so hopefully that gets better. But that's a big thing. So cramping, first thing. I need to do longer rides, for sure, longer time in a saddle, to just try and build that fatigue resistance, as I call it. And second, maybe lose some weight. I think I don't know what my fat percentage is still. I know I do look a lot skinnier than I did before, but I'm actually not that much lighter. When I started cycling, I was about 200. Racing GMSR, I was 195, so only 5 pounds lighter after about 2 years of cycling now. So I look skinnier, but I'm not actually skinnier. So I don't know if my legs just got beefier while my upper body lost some muscle, but I do still have some excess dead weight that I'm carrying. So I think if I want to be competitive at any race at this point in this higher categories, I do need to just lose some of that extra weight. I don't want to lose strength. Obviously, I want to get stronger on the bike, but I think there's this balance that I can achieve with losing some fat while not also losing muscle. So that's gonna be something I experiment with, something I play around with next year. But we'll see how that goes. And then I guess what else can I do? I'm gonna incorporate more running and cross training, because for the past 2 years I've been only cycling, which I don't think is good for my bones and my body in general. I did a run with my fiance last week, and my bones were just hurting. Like my my ankles, my bones, my tendons, everything was in so much pain, which kind of told me that, okay, your body really shouldn't be hurting after this. I'm doing a 2-mile run. I shouldn't be feeling like an old man. So I'm gonna be adding more running. I'm gonna be adding more cross training, and I've been looking into doing some triathlons, which I think would be a good kind of break from cycling. So I'm definitely eyeing to do a 70.3 potentially next year and see how that goes. That's gonna give me something to do outside of cycling. So I can run, I can swim, and obviously I'm gonna bike, and I'm gonna try and race crits and races that I can race, because I don't think that I'm gonna really get slower by adding this cross training. I think if anything, I'm gonna get faster on the bike by doing these other things other than just cycling. But we'll see how that goes. I'm pretty stoked for it. I actually did a little bit more running this week, so that felt good. I ran a 5K today. It was a charity 5K, which I actually got third, so I can run, so it's not bad. And then swimming, I'll start in the winter, and hopefully that goes well as well. But yeah, that's about it. Super excited for next season. I'm still Cat 3. I think I can upgrade voluntary. I think I have just enough points to upgrade. I can actually just quickly check that. But I might need you guys to tell me what I should do. if somebody even stayed this long in a video. I don't know if it's smart to upgrade. And what I mean by that is, if I upgrade to 2, right, to cat 2, I'm racing only 1, 2, 3 fields at that point. And I don't think I've had a race in 1, 2, 3s yet that I felt comfortable in. Like so far in 1, 2, 3 fields, I'm not good at still being in the field. Like I either need to be kind of in the front or kind of in the back, right? 1, 2, 3 fields, I'm mostly in the back. I don't get dropped, but I just kind of stay in the back, and then by the time there's finish, there's no way for me to sprint from the back to the front, so I can always finish middle of the pack. Because I'm just not confident being next to other people in a group. I'm not confident racing, so close to other people's handlebars. I brake too much. I don't trust other people really. So I think Cat 3 is still beneficial for me to just kind of learn and race those races with people that are maybe kind of in the same boat as me. You know what I mean? Versus going to Cat 1, 2 is where a brake goes and there's teams represented, and now everybody in the field is just doing whatever, and the brake is going hard. Or if you make, ideally I make the brake, but I'm never really in those moments or positions to make the brake because I'm not confident enough to be next or to the front or in the middle of the group where I can actually do stuff. So I'm thinking I'm gonna stay at 3 for a little bit longer, race some of the double up mostly, try and do 1, 2, 3s and 3, 4s or 3s. I think that will give me more experience. I think I also need to race more. That's another thing. I was talking to some of the guys at GMSR, and they were all, doing 30 plus races this year, and I did 10. So I think I need more racing. So I need to double up. I need to do more races in general, just to get that experience of going fast next to other people. So I think I'm gonna stay 3. I'm gonna try and double up when I can, and then once I feel confident and I can actually be in the group with 1, 2, 3s, like be next to those guys and protect my position. Because right now what happens is it's very easy for them to take my spot because I'm not protecting my position. I'm just yielding every time. If I yield to one spot, I yield to 5 because 5 other guys are on the guys' ass, and then I'm spending way too much energy to try and pass those guys on some other spot. So I need to learn how to protect my wheel better and protect my position better first, and then I'm gonna be comfortable actually upgrading and staying up there, and helping my team in the end. Like I'm this guy, strong guy that I'm using all my strength to not get dropped, versus I think I should be using all my strength to actually help get in the brakes, attack, help my teammates, do less work because I can do more work, which because of my skill right now I cannot do that work where it matters. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Let me know if you guys think I should maybe upgrade now and just fucking give it a go. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But yeah, thanks all for watching. If you stayed throughout this whole 43 minutes now, which is pretty long video, but yeah, hopefully I make more of these in the future, because I've been pretty bad with actually putting a camera and starting. But yeah, thanks all for watching. I will see you in the next one. Peace.